All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Adams Brothers Podcast. What a beautiful sunny South Florida day it is here in South Florida. We'd like to welcome everybody to
Hot.
the hottest podcast here in South Florida, the Adams Brothers Podcast. We are joined here this afternoon with Miss Danielle L. Campbell. She is a licensed firearm instructor, and she is also a businesswoman here in the South Florida area, the Tri-County area here of South Florida. And we'd like to welcome Miss Campbell to the Adams Brothers Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So we were talking a little bit off air, and we were talking about some of the things that you do. So first of all, I know I introduced you, but go ahead and tell our viewers out there about who you are, Danielle Campbell, and all of the things that you want them to know. You don't have to get down into your personal life or anything. Just all of the things that you want us to know about Danielle.
So my name is Danielle Campbell. Happy to be with you guys tonight just to share with you guys a little bit about my work. I like to call it my life's work. And so my life's work is built around safety and protection. And that comes in a couple of different ways. So namely, I own a small business, a small South Florida-based business called Glitter and Gunpowder, where I work hard to take up arms.
We hear a lot of static in the background, Danielle. When you talk, we hearing static.
Might be a little earplug.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
That's better.
Yeah. Yeah, we were hearing a lot of static whenever
better.
you were talking. Yeah, we're good now, though.
Go ahead. Continue.
Great.
Now we don't hear you at all.
Now we can't hear you at all. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, we are joined here with Miss Danielle L. Campbell. She's trying to get her audio straightened out on that end there, so just give her a moment, please.
Yeah.
Are you guys able to hear me now?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you now.
Technical difficulties come. That's the nature
That
of this
happens.
business.
It
To
happens
us,
all the time.
yeah.
Disconnected and it
though.
automatically jumped over to mute. So I apologize for that.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem.
So just basically getting women to acknowledge and take up responsibility that they would be their own first responder and learn how to defend themselves with the uprise of the new epidemic of violence against women. And then I also serve as co-director for an organization, a local organization, a statewide organization called Protect Peace, where we build a bridge between responsible gun ownership and anti-violence. You know, as you guys all know, anytime something happens in the media where a weapon is utilized, the gun owner, the responsible law-abiding gun owner automatically becomes, the target. And so we work to build a bridge between responsible gun ownerships and anti-violence work, bringing those two worlds together to show that we all care about community safety and how that looks. I also serve as the Southeast Regional Director for the National African American Gun Association. Short word is NAGA. A lot of people like to coin it as the Black NRA. However, the organization is a lot more than that. It's a unique brother and sisterhood surrounding firearms where you get to join local gun clubs. And if there's not an actual physical gun club that's local to you, there's a digital component where you can join an online community where you learn, train, and grow with like-minded individuals.
Okay. All right. So you've been around firearms for a while. How long? Well, when did you start getting an interest in firearms?
So I became a gun owner at 18, but I was what I would now call an irresponsible gun owner, right? So I had a gun because I grew up in Opelika. If you know anything about Miami, you know that's not the best neighborhood. And so I would get my gun and I would keep that gun in the bottom of my purse or on my shelf. And if I was going out like late or if I was getting off work late, I would put it in my car. But I didn't know very much about it. I had it because I felt like I needed it to transition from space to space. In 2017, my assistant was shot by a stray bullet on her way home. I don't remember exactly where she was coming from, but she was on her way home. And then, we automatically thought that it was just some type of street violence. When the story came out, I learned that there was a guy being robbed in the parking lot of a library. And he did what I would have done in that situation. He dug deep, got his weapon, and he discharged the round. So she was driving down 183rd Street, and one bullet lodged in her neck, and it took her life. And I realized that at that moment that I had a problem. Like, okay, I'm carrying this weapon, much like this guy, to make sure that I can get home safe. And he didn't do anything that I wouldn't have done in defense of myself. But the problem was that he wasn't doing any type of training, and he didn't necessarily know what he was doing. So from that, after that happened, I started like submersing myself into training. I would go like on Saturdays or in the evenings when I got off work, I would go to local gun ranges and take classes so that I could learn how to be a little bit more proficient with my weapon. And then I was on Facebook scrolling, and I saw a friend. He's actually friends with Major, Bobby, on Facebook wearing this t-shirt. And I'm a t-shirt girl. So I was like, where you got that shirt? I want one of those. And he was like, well, you can't just wear this shirt. You have to be a member. And so from there, I joined the Black Arms Gun Club. And where I'm still a member today. And that's where I really developed a passion for training and being not just a gun owner, but a responsible gun owner.
Okay. All right. And you also you teach basic gun safety classes as well?
So yes, I do firearm safety. I try to do it as much as I can for free for people with kids, because it's young Black kids that are finding weapons and hurting themselves because they don't have access to that education. But I do firearm safety training. This summer, my passion project is to have Miami-Dade County and the whole state of Florida treat gun safety the same way that we would treat water safety, the same way that we would treat drug abuse training, the same way that we would treat water and fire safety, is that we would make gun safety something that is critical mass for little kids. So I do firearm safety training. I also teach a concealed weapons permit course. I do basic pistol, basic rifle, and then also a little bit of tactical training on both ends.
Okay.
Yes, and Danielle, what are some of the most common misconceptions you encounter about firearms, particularly with women?
That I think the most common and annoying one would be, oh, I don't need to learn that because my husband or my son or my brother is going to protect me. And I always say, I think that's a great thing when you're with your brother, your son, or your husband, but those guys are not always with you. And while I know that they want to make sure that you're safe, they're not going to always be there. So you have to learn to be your own first responder, because even dialing 911, which is my second biggest one, I'm just call the police. The average 911 response time in South Florida is 6 to 8 minutes. Everything that's going to happen to you will already be done. But by the time the police arrive, the police's job is to respond to an incident that has already occurred. And so we have to learn how to take that responsibility into our own hands, of course, legally and ethically.
Yes. And in your classes, I know you teach, like you're saying now, I know you teach about the legalities of laws and the consequences of guns if you handle them or use them in the wrong way, correct?
Absolutely. Like, one of the biggest things with new gun owners is in training them is making sure that they understand that if and when the time comes for them to pull a weapon, that they're doing it to defend their life and not their ego. A lot of stuff that we see happening in the news are things that could be avoided if people had the proper de-escalation training and understood that a gun is a tool of last resort. You don't pull it out to prove a point. You don't pull it out because you're upset. You pull it out in defense of your life or someone else's life.
Yes. Yes. And we see that all the time. We see a lot of people in state prison federal prison right now because when most of the time they should have just walked away, but they tried to prove to their friends standing on, that they were tough, and, they're sitting in prison sometimes for 20, 30, or either life, when they just should have just, like you said, de-escalated and just walked away. A lot of people, I was always told, my grandfather he was an avid, he carried a gun, both of my grandfathers, and we would see them as kids with their firearms, and they always said never pull the gun unless you plan on using it. That was the law of the land, even as kids growing up.
That's right. Your grandfather was a wise man. That's the way it should happen. No one should know that you even have it.
That's right. It's always the element of surprise. I tell everyone.
That's right.
I see a lot of people online today. They love to show their gun off. And I mean, it's nothing wrong with showing your friends, but I don't believe unless I'm at the gun range or something and I really, kind of careful about that. But I was always told too, having a gun is always the element of surprise. You don't even want no one to know that you have the gun on you, because if the person know that you have it, the first thing they're going to do is, me and my brother, we worked security for over 20 years, armed security. We guarded all kind of places. Me and my brother worked together, and in those training classes, it was always just, conceal and cover, and the element of surprise, just not even letting a person know that you had a firearm on you.
I lived by that for so long, and I would say that probably like I started to shift in like 2019 when my chapter's vice president challenged me. It was like, there are lots of people that look up to you, that come to you for advice, that seek advice from you. He goes, how do we change the narrative surrounding responsible gun ownership if the only time people see a gun is in the hands of a criminal or somebody that's doing the wrong thing? And so we got into that was like every month when we have our range days at Black Arms, we have what we call a chapter meeting prior to the range, where we talk about, things that are going on in the media, current events, or recent, like if there was some footage that happened of a home invasion or something, we'll sit down and talk and dissect that. And this conversation was a really, really prominent one for us, because there are still a lot of people who think, we shouldn't show our hand in that way. We shouldn't talk about what we have in our homes. We shouldn't show our guns. We shouldn't. So I'd never tell anybody how many guns I have. I'll never say, hey, take a look at my safe. I see a lot of that happening. But I did begin in around 2019, maybe 2020, to start to talk a little bit more about responsible gun ownership and what that means. And maybe even like showing pictures of myself at the range or my targets or things like that. Whereas before I would never do that. I was very much so like you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you think, well, not do you think, but part of being a responsible gun owner is to keep your firearms locked up and secure? I know for me personally, for years, I used to keep my firearm locked up in my room, deadbolt, bottom lock, unloaded. But I had to take it a step further. Something just was telling me that I needed to be more responsible with my firearms, because I have grandkids. So I went out just recently and bought me a gun safe, a gun vault. And I put all of my firearms in there. And how important is owning or purchasing a gun safe or a gun vault
or locks
when you are in possession of a firearm, if you keep firearms around your home?
So it's very important, especially if you have other people in your home. So first and foremost, it's the law that you actually keep the weapon locked up when it's not in use. So a lot of people own weapons and they don't necessarily carry them every day. And so by law, you're mandated to keep it locked up. Now, I'm not a big fan of trigger locks. So a trigger lock is the mechanism that comes in the box when you purchase the gun. And it's just because when you need that weapon, if somebody on your neck and you need to get to that weapon, imagine yourself having to use the bathroom, you're just getting home and you're trying to stick the key in the door and you can't get the big key in the door lock. This trigger lock is much smaller, and the key is very small, and it's just a very tedious task. So now they have a lot of like neat safes, some that don't even take batteries, a stop box where you just remember where to place your fingers and it'll pop open. We have the biometric safes that you can just put your fingerprint on, some that you can put a password in, and some that just like old fashioned, they have a combination or a key.
That's what
And when you purchase a gun, that's a very, very intricate part of that purchase, is having a way to lock that weapon up. Again, small children are finding weapons, and they excited by them. One, because the way that we are raised, we don't teach our children about firearms and firearm safety like people in other communities do. So they don't know. And as we know, anything that we tell a kid not to do, they are intrigued. They're intrigued by it, even at the small age of 2 and 3. And so the kids are finding the weapons and they're hurting themselves. So locking them up is the first thing that you should do. When you come home with a weapon, you should have a mechanism to make sure that weapon is secure.
Yeah, that's true. And that's good advice, because I mean, most times I'm home by myself, but I know my grandkids do come over. But the first thing that pops in my mind, that when I know my grandkids are going to be there that day before, I always go and double and triple check the house to make sure I didn't leave it. And I only keep 1 or 2 out at a time, you know. So, but right now they're all in my gun safe, and it is bolted down to the floor and to the wall and everything. So that's important too. If you buy a gun safe, make sure you bolt it down. If it's a little small one, especially if it's a little small one that someone could just pick up and take it with them. That is important to have it bolted down or connected to the wall or something. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's important to make sure that even the safe is secure. So story time, when you go to the post office, legally, you're not allowed to go inside of the post office with your weapon on your person. And because I carry on my body, I had a safe underneath my seat that, you would use a cable lock to attach to the bottom of the seat. Well, people will watch you. And somebody went into my car while I was in the post office, cut the cable lock, and took the entire safe out of my car. So you have to be extremely careful. You got to keep your head on the swivel and be paying attention to what's happening around you. If you're sitting in your car, try not to sit in the car for extended periods of time, and don't let people see you bending down, because a lot of people's only job is to watch you so they can catch you slipping.
I tell people that all the time. I just said that on Facebook this morning.
See?
Evil is around us 24/7, 365. Trust me.
And I mean, I had to be in there for no more than 10 minutes. I just went in to mail something off. Took it off because I can't do the jail time. Put it in the safe, locked the safe, and stuck it under the seat. But somebody had to have been watching me do that.
Did they break the window, or did you leave the door unlocked?
No, the door wasn't unlocked. These thieves are extremely, extremely crafty.
Yeah.
The door wasn't unlocked. I didn't see like a sign of any tampering, but what it did make me do, I turned off the noise, because I hate noise. So I turned off the horn part of my passive alarm system in my car. It's back on now. So if you open the door, the horn gets to hollering. But yeah, they got me.
Yeah. Also, Danielle, what do you think about people, especially in our community, the Black community? A lot of community leaders and religious leaders are always trying to disarm the Black community.
I think we perish for lack of knowledge. I think a lot of times it's desperation. When you think back to the Clinton crime bill, when you really look at what was happening during that time, you will find that the people who were heaviest impacted by that were the main ones calling for it. And that's what I think about every time I see a Black person standing up on the news or in a pulpit talking about getting rid of all guns. Any gun law that's ever been enacted, in my opinion, is racist. They are all racist or classist in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And the laws affect us before they affect anybody else. So when I see people calling for that, my first thing is always like, I want to talk. I would love to be able to sit down and talk to this person. Because, and then what you'll find is, that especially with the politicians, a lot of them are gun owners themselves.
Yes.
But they say whatever they think is going to get them the support of the people, rather than educating the people on what the people need to know.
Right.
This is probably like maybe 3-4 years ago. I went to a CPR class, a free CPR class that was being provided by the city of Miami Gardens. And when the class was over, the then mayor stood up and he told the story about why he bought CPR classes to the city at no cost for anybody that wanted to attend. He said that he had been in church and that one of his church members fell out in church and nobody there, I think he said it was Antioch, so it's a pretty big church, and nobody there knew how to do CPR. And ultimately the sister wound up losing her life as they waited for first responders to arrive. And so I shared with him an incident where a young kid had gotten into some trouble when he was being chased down by, I believe it was the homeowner whose yard he was caught in. And the homeowner shot this kid a couple of times, and the child bled to death. And so one of the things that my gun club, Black Arms Gun Club, does is a Stop the Bleed workshop. And I was telling the mayor, like, listen, if you provide us with the space, we'll come in and we'll facilitate these workshops at no cost to the city of Miami Gardens outside of space. We don't need any supplies. We have everything that we need to facilitate. We'll teach people how to do something other than holding up their cameras and recording while people are dying. And he just was like, oh, but there's so much red tape. If I do this, then people are going to say that I'm on board with what's happening. I said, but what happens if you do nothing? Because that's what you're doing right now. What happens if you continue to do nothing? And this is where we get stuck. This is where the rubber meets the road, because everybody's worried about their image and saying what they think is going to move the needle, but it does nothing to help the community where people are dying. So we need real tangible investments, and calling for taking away guns is not the answer.
Yeah. Right. And we see that all too often. Whenever tragedy, whenever, you hardly hear anything else about it. Like right now, you don't hear nothing. First time a tragedy take place, a mass shooting, then you see, and I respect a lot of those people for what they have done, like the Sharptons, and you see them pop up on TV and they all the time talking about, and I just hate this here where they always talking about disarming the Black community. I cringe every time I see these gun buybacks. Sometimes they're good. But I cringe every time I see these gun buybacks in our community, because again, I would love to have a program like that right here in Deerfield Beach. But then again, the politicians, they don't want to be seen as they figure if they talk about guns and you bring something there that you with the program or that you on the program, I wouldn't care what they think about me. I'm here to save lives. I'm here to talk about safety and save lives. That's more important than any vote here. So like I say, I cringe every time I see these gun buybacks where they're giving people $100, a gift card. In a lot of cases, it's good, but then a lot, it's not.
It drives me insane. I wish I could. Every time I see a billboard or a Facebook post, I get right under there and tell those people to put those weapons on Gun Broker so they can get more than $25 or a meal that they would be able to get, something tangible for those weapons, because they cost money. And what do you think the PD is doing with them when they get them?
Yeah.
You think they just put them in the back closet?
Yeah.
No, they're going straight to auctions.
Yeah. Yep. And they make money off of it. And I know one cop told us back in the day, so he used to go and he used to get his choice of what he wanted, and he would actually sell the guns.
I believe it wholeheartedly. A friend of mine I think he's out in Tampa. He went to one and he was telling the people to let him see what they had, that he would buy it from them. And the police threatened to arrest them. So he had to get out of there. But like I think that's, and you don't see that happening in any other communities. You don't see Hispanic or white or Asian communities with gun buybacks. You just don't see it.
Yeah. You only see it in our community, and then they they try to justify saying, well, your community has the most violence in it. Well, our community have the most violence in it, not just because of people just want to sit there and commit crimes. I mean, it's economic challenges to a lot of times why crimes take place in our community. And that's the part a lot of people don't want to look at. They want to look at the punishment and they want to talk tough, but they never want to get to the root of the problem, which to me goes back to economics. At times
it's always about the foundation. It's the economics, and it's about the over policing and overcharging that happens in our communities as well. And people don't have they don't understand that in order to combat violence, you need a real investment in community, not more punishment or more punitive practices.
Right. And Danielle, what are some of the challenges you face as a Black female instructor in this field?
So in the beginning, it was a respect thing, right? Like, so when I first started like in firearm spaces, I was the state director for Florida for the National African American Gun Association. And I'll never forget calling the different chapter presidents to, talk to them and just get a feel for them, see who they are and what they need. And I had one brother, he was like, well, what do you want? Like, what could you possibly tell me as a woman in industry? He felt like I didn't have anything that I could lend to the conversation. And so I shared with him at the time, I was like, well, right now, at that time, I wasn't a firearms instructor. I said, but I'm a very successful business owner, and your chapter is suffering because you can't get people to show up. So it would benefit you to sit down and have a conversation with me so we can figure out how to get you, some better support. So initially it was respect, just me being a woman in a male dominated industry. People didn't necessarily take me seriously. So I had to do a lot of showing and a lot of proving by way of like going to different shooting events and having conversations and then being able to demonstrate that I'm not just out here talking, that I can do this. Like one guy, I think the biggest part of it is showing up on range and having guys run over to help you. And then you got to bang them up a little bit. You got to show them like, let me help you. Let me help you with this. So that's always refreshing. But it was definitely respect in the beginning, getting people to take me seriously in this industry.
Yeah. I saw a picture of you with your head down. You had that AR-15. I look like an AR.
Yeah, that's my baby.
I got one just like that. Matter of fact, I got two. That I shouldn't even be saying that. But man, I saw that picture. I was like, man, that's awesome. Because you hardly ever see any Black women with ARs. I mean, it's always like, I look at the people. Some people in my family, whenever they detest guns. I see some of my Facebook friends, whenever they hate to see us talking about guns and gun safety. A lot of people hate to see it. But when I saw you with that picture, I was like, man, that is nice to see, Danielle. That was a good picture there. I would have that picture there if that was me. I would have that picture there hanging in my house.
That's my baby. I choose rifle over pistol any day. At one point, I didn't see myself becoming an instructor. I thought I was going to get into rifle competition shooting. And the one thing that is lost on people is how therapeutic shooting is as a sport. This summer, I had the pleasure of going around to summer camps and teaching firearm safety to the youth. And I shared with the high school groups and the middle school groups that shooting is an Olympic sport. And it's therapeutic. I'm having a bad day, or if I have a rough work day or some extra nonsense at home, the first thing I want to do is go to the range to decompress. It's extremely therapeutic. So,
have you ever participated in any of like? I remember back on a lot of like old Clint Eastwood movies like Magnum Force. I don't know if you ever saw that before, but where he was on the range, he was on, in the pop up all of a sudden of a criminal, and he'll like whether to shoot or just a regular person. You ever participate in those type of shoot arounds? I would love to do that.
So the Homestead Training Center, I don't know if you guys had the pleasure of going out there yet. They're in the process of rebuilding what they call a shoot house. They had one back in 2020, but they demolished it and they're moving it to the other side of the range. They're making it a lot bigger. And what it is they give you, you don't use real ammunition because there are real people in there, but they give you the simunition simunition bullets that are like ink. And each room has a different scenario. So for instance, we went into one room and they had a boy tied up on the couch and then somebody sitting in a chair and your adrenaline is rushing. So when you walk in, you got to assess, find the threat and get on target and shoot. And I was blown away by how many people shot the wrong person, just out of fear. And so that's a real thing, but it's a great training to have. I always encourage people. So for me, I love to travel. And so I go around to different places and train with other people because you're never too advanced to learn something. This year was my first year going to TACCON. And man, I encourage anybody that can get in because it's hard to get in. Like
explain what TACCON is too.
So TACCON is I don't know who's familiar here with Tom Givens, but he has a weekend of shooting sports, and it's all training. So he gets the most dynamic pistol and rifle instructors across the United States, and he brings them together to teach for this tactical experience. And it's like a tactical conference. That's what it's short for. And you get to run like a bunch of different scenarios, shooting scenarios, and then there are classroom scenarios where they talk about, different things and how to control your breathing. And it's an industry great. I think thus far, it has by far been the best shooting training experience that I have had. It's a little pricey, but it's worth it. It's well worth it. So I've already it sells out within 12 hours of tickets going online. It's sold out for the next year.
Right. And I heard you mention something that stuck out to me. You said travel. Now, last year was the first time I ever traveled with my firearm. I knew I could do it, but I just man, it's going to be too much trouble for me to go and travel, within the United States with my firearm. And you have to know exactly what states allow you to travel from and to, and what states you can't. Like New York, you can't take your firearm there. I think they may be trying to change that in California and some other states. So you have to be very aware if you have connecting flights that may start from Florida and go to Atlanta and then go to New York. If you got a connecting, if you're going to Chicago and on the way back, you might have to fly into New York and then to Florida. You have to be very, very aware of where you're flying with your firearm. So could you just explain to the people that's watching right now, how do you travel with your firearm and what do you need to do to travel with your firearm?
So every airline has a different policy for bringing firearms. But the most important things that you have to declare to the airline that you are going to be traveling with a firearm, right? You cannot take that firearm into the security checkpoint. So it has to be in your checked baggage. If you go through the security line and put your bag on the belt and your bag goes into the X-ray system, you're going to jail.
Right. Yes, you will.
And you're going to get a $25,000 fine. And so you have to make sure that you have a checked bag on the flight. And then you want to not just put the gun in the checked bag. You want to make sure you declare to the airline that you have a bag. And every airline has a different policy. The one thing that remains neutral across all airlines is that the firearm has to be in a hard-sided case that you have the ability to lock. And I don't mean just one little thing where it can still be open from the other side. It has to be sealed and locked. So if it's let's say, for instance, Canik has a gun case that seals pretty tight, but it has two holes. You have to put a lock in both of those holes. You have to declare to the airline that you're going to be traveling with that weapon. And then there's a really neat website. Once this goes live and is posted, I'll dig the website out and put it in the comment section there, where you can go on and you can say where you're traveling to, and it will give you the gun law. So of course, there are places that you are not allowed to be
Yep.
with the gun. So for example, most recently, I traveled to Philadelphia to do a ODAP summer camp to teach firearm safety at a summer camp for a group of boys. And when I looked it up, I can take a gun to Philadelphia, but there's a Commonwealth that you cannot have a gun in, and that's where I was staying. And so the responsibility is yours to look it up, because some places like Illinois, you have to have a FOID card. There are certain requirements, and every state is different. Here in the state of Florida, you're allowed to have a firearm, a concealed weapon. You're allowed to have a gun on you. And we don't have open carry. We have what we call permitless carry here in the state of Florida. But even that comes with stipulations. So if you have a felony conviction or a dishonorable discharge from the military, you're not allowed to carry. You're not allowed to carry without a permit. And then if you are carrying without a permit, there are certain requirements. Like if you're in a car, your magazine has to be separated from your weapon. So there are a bunch of nuances to carrying. And unfortunately, nobody's going to teach them to you. The responsibility is on the person that's carrying the gun to figure out what you can and cannot do where. Good news is, if you have a Florida concealed weapons permit, which I still encourage everybody to carry, you get reciprocity with a lot of different there are 26 states that have reciprocity with Florida, and then there are a bunch of other states that that are open carry where you can have a weapon on you. But even that is different.
Yeah. Okay, and while we're still on, and I heard you mention again about open carry. Now, open carry here in the state of Florida, you can't open carry. You can't strap your firearm on you and carry it and walk down the streets like Texas. You can, I believe, and some other states, Ohio. Right. But there's only three ways that you can open carry here in state of Florida. I know what they are, but explain those 3 ways to our viewers right now.
I try to keep people away from all of this unless you fish.
Right. I wouldn't advise it. Yeah.
If you're not fishing or hunting, don't even try it.
Exactly.
Those are the 2 ways. And if you are hunting or fishing, you want to make sure that you have a card. You cannot just go out there and say that you fishing. You have to have a card. If you're hunting, you have to have a permit to even do that. And those are the only ways that you can open carry here in the state of Florida. Right. And even then, I wouldn't encourage it.
Right, I wouldn't either. It's hunting, fishing, and camping, I believe.
Camping.
Yeah. So I'm just like you. I wouldn't advise. I would never do it, but that is the law. If you are if you are actively hunting, fishing, or camping, you can open carry. But like you say, if you black, I wouldn't do it.
No,
I wouldn't do it. I'm just gonna tell you straight up, I wouldn't do it. And I'm a responsible gun owner. I would never ever in my life open carry. Not here in Florida. I don't think I would do it in any state.
I go to Texas often, and I do not participate.
No. And that's what I wanted to ask you, Danielle. What do you think about open carry here? Do you think that one day it could be law, and even if it was, would you participate in open carry?
I do think that it could become law here. We live in a very gun-friendly state, thanks to us. Like in a lot of states, like what I was just saying about Philadelphia and in the different commonwealths that they have and how they have different rules in different spaces. The state of Florida is a place where a municipality cannot have a gun law. It's only the state laws. So we live in a very gun-friendly place, and we are a Republican state. And so I think that it could very well happen. I will not be participating when it does, but I definitely think that it could happen here.
Yeah, it keeps getting close in the legislature. I watch it every year. It's introduced and it gets far, and then some. Usually the Republican. I mean, they don't never talk about that, but it usually gets there in the Republican. Like you say, this is a Republican-controlled state here in Florida. They own the House. They own the supermajority here, and every time it get close. I mean, it was close like really about 2 years ago, I believe it was really close. I think this was the closest that I had ever seen it get and it was knocked down at the last minute. And pretty much Ron DeSantis said he would support it. He would sign it if it
made it.
Yeah, if it made it. Yeah. I was surprised of that. But it's something that, like you say, could happen one day.
And I found that website. I have it on my phone. It's called CCW. It's an app, and it's an app. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It looks like, well, I don't know if you guys can see it. It's that little with the American flag down there.
You see your apps.
Yeah, on my app. But it's American, and it tells you recent laws. Last state view, find current states, nearby places. It lets you know if you're not sure where you could take your firearm. This here updates all the time, and it will tell you exactly what states you can go to. It has a site map, like right here. You can see the site map.
Yes,
and it's green, and what's green and yellow and red. You cannot travel there. So it's the carry states. It has the carry states, so it's green and yellow here to tell you where you can carry and who has reciprocity with Florida. And it's a good app. So I advise any responsible gun owner to download this app. And before you travel, especially if you have connecting flights, be aware of where you're going and what connecting flights your flight is going to. You're going to have connecting flights, because that state you couldn't have a connecting flight in will very well they could very well take you to jail and put you in jail for having a firearm in their state. So that's what I wanted to add.
And do not lean on what you know. Every time you get ready to travel, go to the site and check it, because things change, and the last thing you want is to be caught up in a place with something that you're not supposed to have. Silver bracelets for everybody. So you just want to be careful. It just takes a few minutes. It's very, very easy to check. The information is it's like one page. It's not a whole bunch of diving that you have to do. So every time you get ready to travel, you should check.
Your permit is not honored in New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, DC, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Colorado, and Nevada, California, Oregon, and Washington. So yeah, you can't. A Florida permit is not honored in those states.
Danielle, what advice would you give to someone considering joining? You might answer that. Considering joining a gun club.
I would say give it a try, and then there's no one glove approach to it, because every chapter provides something different. So for those of you, if you guys have listeners that are in the Pompano Beach area, Tiffany has a group called Girls with Guns. It's a woman-centered gun club that women can join and talk about issues that are specific to women in what is that, Boca, Boynton, in that area. You have Randy of the Gatekeepers. That's an open chapter. It is mixed. Here in South Florida, we have the Black Arms Gun Club, where I'm a member. It's also a mixed bag. We have both men and women, and each chapter provides something a little bit different. So my chapter, we do more self-defense. Our training is more geared based on self-defense and home defense. So we do a lot of drills. We'll do outside training. And then Tiffany's group is more for women, and it's based more around familiarizing yourself with weapons, learning how to shoot, proper grip, proper stance. And then, hers is a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more fun, a little bit more relaxed. That Black Arms is serious business. And while I have gone shooting with Randy on a personal level, I haven't been to any of his chapter meetings yet, so I can't specify what that's about. But I said there's no one glove approach. Try them all. Most gun clubs only meet once per month, so even if it's a little bit further out than you would want to drive, I say give it a shot. You meet people the members of my chapter are like family, and they are people that come from all walks of life. We have teachers, nurses, state troopers, a public defender, somebody that works for the federal government. We have people from all walks of life that we come together for a common objective is we want to learn how to fellowship. And you meet some really, really great people. So it's also a really great way to network.
Mm-hmm.
I say test them all out. See which one you like.
And Danielle, if someone wanted to purchase a firearm from you, can they do that?
Yes, they could. They could purchase firearms. You can do firearm transfers. I am working on, so I just got a federal firearms dealer license, and I'm actually having a website put together now. I can tell you what it's going to be. I hope it'll be live by next week. It's going to be www.glitterandgunpowder.com. And then if you're purchasing a weapon from like a big box store, you could also utilize me as a FFL to have your weapon transferred over to me. One of the things that got me into this business is I purchased a weapon from a big box store, and the gun store charged me $75 to transfer the weapon, and I found that to be so ridiculous I almost died. So I committed to keeping the transfer fee low. I mean, just because you have to receive and store and do paperwork. So I'm going to be doing transfers for $20 and a background check at $5. And that was my main reason for getting into this, is so that people can have, you already spent $600-700 for a weapon. Right. Why am I charging you $75 just to receive that weapon on your behalf? So that's what got me into the FFL piece.
That's great. And it's funny you say that. I was just looking online at this firearm here about a week ago. And that firearm, I mean, you're right. They were talking about, and they were locally, and they were talking about at least $70 once it comes to that place where I can pick it up. They're talking about $70 or $80 fee that they put on top of it.
Yeah, that's the new thing. And I find it to be very ridiculous, especially for something that in our mind, it's a necessity. You know, so I don't think that that's right. So yes, that I hope that the site will be up and fully functional by next week, and those are going to be the transfer and background check fees.
Yep. Glitterandgunpowder.com. Yes, I will definitely be going on there to check that out, and I wanted to say, and maybe you answered this. I think you did answer that. How has your involvement in the gun club impacted your perspective on firearms and gun ownership?
It has changed my perception tremendously. Like I said, I used to be what they call a secret gun owner. I never told anybody that I had a gun, and I've been a gun-toting mama since I was 18 years old, and no one was none the wiser. So now I do more outreach, more advocacy work. I talk more about my experience. I try to bring more women in. So once a month, on the third Wednesday of every month, I go to Pembroke Gun Range, where that's when they have their ladies' night, and I bring women out there for free. That's the day that women don't have to pay. I bring a case of guns so that women can try different things that might be easy for them to conceal. I bring full size, some subcompact. And then the only thing I ask women to have or be able to provide is their own ammunition. And every now and again, we get a sponsor that will pay for ammunition. And then that makes the night totally free, because I always supply the targets and the weapons and the eye and ear protection for the women. So they're coming out, and it's a free experience, and they get to do something that they haven't done before, just to try to get them acclimated, you know?
Yeah.
And you said that's in Pembroke Pines?
Pembroke. You remember where we used to have to go to get our G license recertification? Yeah. We used to have to go there back in the days to get our G license recertification. Okay. And Tuesday night, you shoot free. It was Tuesday night, I remember. You would be able to shoot free. So we would go there and get because we had to get recertified every year with the G license. And we would have to go there. At least that's where our instructor
you guys
wanted us to go. I'm glad he did change it to something local where we didn't have to. We had to basically get off our regular job and then try to be there at about 4:30, trying to fight traffic there, 5 o'clock or whatever it was. But yeah, that was a nice facility there. I think it was called back in the days, Big Al's.
Big Al's is still there. It's full street up.
Okay.
I'm going in there because they haven't been very user friendly.
Okay.
So I try to build relationships, and now Pembroke Gun Range is under new management. and I had an opportunity to meet the new people who are managing over there. But I try to take people into spaces where they're going to feel welcome and invited.
Oh yeah.
Not go into spaces where people are going to be ridiculed.
Right.
We used to go up to Fort Lauderdale to the shoot straight, but it wasn't always a pleasant experience. And so
no, and I'll tell you something else that's not pleasant for me as a black person. And I have went in to purchase guns before, and when I went in the gun store, even at the Bass and Pro Shop, I mean, some of the people that come there, they're not very friendly towards. And I watch the interactions with me as a black person, and I watch the interactions with them with white men and white women, and they were very like hostile towards me, and I'm being as nice as I can be. But I always noticed that, and whenever me and my brother used to go shoot, and others, we used to have a little group where we used to go shoot every Saturday morning, and they would see us come in. It would be probably about 10 of us. Well, it was like they was kind of hostile towards us. No one was there loud or acting the fool, but you could see they were like watching us, like really watching us more than they would watch other families that was there. And I didn't like that. And it kind of stopped me from going shooting for a while, because I saw that attitude towards us, and everybody in our group saw that. And you know, it's just something I just wanted to just notate to you. I don't know if you ever run into those type of experiences as a black woman.
So I recently moved to Southwest Miami-Dade. I'm in the Cutler Bay area now. And when I first got down here, I would go into ranges, and I don't like to like flex on people. I just want to come in and have an experience as a consumer. So I went into it. I'm gonna name the place. It's a place called Top Gun. I went in there and I was just looking to rent 2 bays, because I was going to bring my son, who has been shooting since he was 7 years old. He'll be 13 next week. And my daughter, who's been shooting since she was 16, she's 24. And the lady was so nasty. She told me, and I watched her check the people in before me. She didn't do any of this to them, but she wanted me to do a demonstration that I knew how to safely and properly handle the firearm. Like right there at the counter, she wanted me to do this. And I don't think nobody had ever one time I went to Georgia, they have a club called Stoddards, and they did it to everyone. But this lady, she wanted to do it to me. So, I mean, I did it, and I did it fast. And so she was like, okay, but I need you to slow down. She just was being real nasty and snooty. So I did it. And then I popped my instructor credentials and my business card on the counter. And I told her, I was like, unfortunately, you just ruined what could have been a great business relationship, because I'm trying to find a range in this area to host the ladies' night and then also to do my classes from. And I told her, I was like, you just ruined what could have been a great business relationship, because now I'm never going to come back here again. I was like, it's important. You have to learn how to treat people, because you never know who you're talking to. You just never know. And I just thought that was crazy, but it does happen. It happens more often than not with us. And I think that we have a responsibility to call it out when we see it.
That's why. That's the reason why I'm saying this right now, because it like you say, we were doing this and they made us, I mean, they would be like watching us. I'm like, look, we come in here all the time. And they like made us feel the way they would come there and talk to us. And I mean, it's crazy, because when they, even in class, with the firearm instructor, they would ask you, do you know how to break your own gun down? And it was funny. I'd be watching people in there struggling. And a Glock. I like Glocks. I like Glocks and Berettas, SIGs. I was able to break that thing down, and they were just like standing there, like looking like, okay. And then they tried to come up with something else, and it was really weird. It really was, and that's why I wanted to ask you.
One of our viewers said they don't feel like we're entitled to purchase a firearm.
Oh yeah, you get a lot of pushback, and unfortunately, in a lot of spaces, like once you get into like at more like shooting more frequently, and they know you, they'll be the nicest people in the world. Sometimes I go out, I walk out of the range, and I might see like big. I'm gonna just say this: big tires on trucks, and it's like, whoa, who is whoa? But they will be the friendliest. Oh, you want to shoot? You want to try this? I got a new whatever. But it's not until they get to know you. You run into a lot of gatekeeping happens in gun stores, and that's why I think that's why these black specific spaces started to emerge so big. I think right now in the state of Florida there are 14 chapters, 14 black and brown black gun clubs.
Yeah. One of our viewers, the same one said, Lawrence Wesley said, please provide us with a friendly gun range for minorities if you know any.
Area is the person in?
He's in Broward,
Deerfield Beach.
Yeah, around the Broward, North Broward.
Declaration Defense is user friendly. I know a couple of instructors that run their courses out of there. I haven't had any like favorable experiences at Shoot Straight, so I wouldn't send anybody there. The staff at Nexus was pretty friendly. It's just a little bit more on the pricier side.
Yeah.
That's
Nexus,
also.
Can you spell that for me?
NEXAS.
NEXUS.
US.
And then Declaration Defense. The staff there is all very polite, like very nice and amenable.
And that's what I look for when I go to shoot. I go and I look for that. I don't care what it is. I don't care if I'm going in the store now. I look for someone that's smiling. Right. I'm not going in no one line. If I'm over there looking and I see a person angry and throwing stuff, I'm not going in there line. And I mean, especially when I go to shoot my firearm, I definitely look for friendly faces. And like I say, going down to I bought a few firearms from Bass Pro Shop. And like I say, the last time we were there, and we had our parents with us. It was crazy. We had our parents, and my parents are up there. And the guy, excuse me.
Which one did you go to, Davy?
Dania. Is that the one in Dania? Dania, okay. Yeah. We went there, and it was a guy there. I mean, he was like, I was like appalled by his behavior, and he was like very nasty. But I'll say this. Once his time went on, maybe it was, and I ain't trying to make no excuse for him because they were swamped, and I know they give you numbers and they call you by numbers, but he was very nasty. But once we got there to him and started talking to him, he kind of let his guard down, and then he kind of tried to apologize a little. He didn't come out and say it, but he tried to just like, they got him there by himself. But hey, that doesn't mean anything about your attitude towards it. And like I say, we were there and we had our parents with us that particular day. So that made it even more worse. And if they had not been there, I probably would have said something else to him. Nothing profanity laced, but I just was like looking at him and I'm like, he's acting this way right in front of my parents. And that was made it more worse for me.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to meet people where they are. And in most cases you can avoid it. You can walk away from them. Since I started like carrying daily, and the more training I do, the more I value a good de-escalation. I'd rather be done. I will leave, which is what I did with the range down here. I left. There's another range, maybe like 5 minutes away. I've been going over there, have built a great relationship. They were all pleasant, but they didn't trust me initially either. They would like stand back and watch me to see if I knew what I was doing. And so now I have a relationship with the RSOs there, and everybody's really, really pleasant.
I think I know the answer to this question, but one of our viewers, Tyrone Hill, said, good evening, everyone. I just joined. Can a convicted felon get a gun permit if you don't have any violent charges? If so, how do you go about it?
So if you are a convicted felon, you would need to have clemency before you have to get your rights restored before you can own and possess a firearm. There's an organization, I believe it's CFO.org. Let me just check that, make sure I'm giving you the right information on my phone. They actually do help felons with right restoration. If there's an issue, a financial issue, then they do it at like no cost. But for people who have like the financial means, they ask them to pay around or about $200 towards the expungement. And this is Florida's. It's like a legal aid that Florida put in place for criminal cases.
Yeah. And I think a lot of mistakes a lot of people make when they do go to trial or whatever, go through some case, they don't ask their lawyer for adjudication.
To be withheld.
To get their rights restored back. And a lot of attorneys, I've been told by a lot of people that were in situations like that. Because I tell everyone now, look, if you go to court, if you go to ask for your rights to be adjudicated, okay? That's definitely one of the first steps, just being adjudicated, because it asks you that on that firearm form. Have you ever been adjudicated? And I guess you would have to show where you were. But a lot of people I know, they would say, well, my attorney never told me that, like people that had drug charges back in it, they might have just got one possession charge. And I would ask them, well, did your lawyer, attorney ever say anything to the judge about you being adjudicated after you complete your whatever probation or your sentence? And they were like, no, no one ever told me that. So I see that. I tell anyone facing those type of anything like that to definitely make sure your attorney have you adjudicated.
Is that cfo.org again?
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up right now.
Yeah, I don't want to put it in the chat.
That's not the correct website. I went there and that wasn't it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can always come back and add it in the chat.
Okay, yeah, I want to give that out because a lot of people, that's a question that a lot of people ask. And a lot of people ask me, so we're not allowed to like give legal advice or like practice law or in any way, but there's an organization that specifically helps. And then if it's just one thing that you have on your record that you can get sealed or expunged, the state of Florida in different areas every month they have these seal and expunge website.
Yes, they do.
We have them here all the time.
They have them in Broward County. Yes.
Go and do that first, and then apply for the clemency so that you can get your rights restored.
Right. Okay. I know, because especially during the election, they definitely was doing it. They was helping people pay. They had paying fines, paying people fines or whatever to definitely get their rights back restored. But
Tyrone Hill says, "Okay, thank you, but I for the information I got my rights restored years ago." He said he has his rights restored.
Oh, so if you have the rights restored, then you should be able to apply for a concealed weapons permit with no issue.
Okay, all right. Tyrone, you heard that? She said if you have got your rights restored, then you should be able to. So,
yes, that's all for me.
Yeah. So before we let you go, Danielle, thank you for all the information that you shared with us. Is there anything else you want to share with us about your? I know you do other things besides being a firearm instructor.
I think so. As passionate as I am about firearms and firearm safety and instruction, my other and most prominent business is an insurance agency. And because we are talking to Black men, the main thing that I encourage everybody Black to do is, even if it's not through me, seek out, if you don't have health insurance, make sure that you understand your health insurance. Open enrollment is coming up for seniors. A lot of our seniors, because we're busy, we don't necessarily have time for our parents. Please sit down with your parents, even if you have to call an insurance company directly. I always advise talking to a broker because the broker can give you advice for multiple carriers. Take a look at what your parents have. Make sure that your parents have coverage for everything that they're going to need, because when your parents fall ill, it changes your entire life, because you got to stop and help them through it. So schedule that checkup, Black man, Black woman, schedule that checkup. If you have a physician who is not hearing you when you come in with concerns, find another physician and make sure you do an annual check on your health insurance, because that is extremely important to life.
Yeah, definitely. Danielle, can you be found on social media if you choose to?
Sure. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Glitter and Gunpowder. And then I have a Facebook page that is under my name, Danielle.L.Campbell. I'm a little bit more polished because it's a professional headshot. I'm wearing a blazer. But yes. And I'll put those things, I'll come and find the video and hop in the chat and put like ways to connect. And I'm also going to give that website for those that may not already have had their rights restored so that you can connect with these attorneys doing this great work.
And I'll say this, Danielle is a prime example of don't judge a book by the cover, because you pull up on her in the wrong way, you might get dealt with. So.
In more ways than one.
Y'all don't let that pretty face fool you. She knows she knows her training. She knows everything. And we're so honored to have Miss Danielle L. Campbell on our Adams Brothers podcast. You know you're welcome. You got the contact information. Anything else, you're welcome to come back on here anytime. You are definitely a friend of our podcast, and you're welcome to come back anytime.
Yeah,
Thank
always.
you for having me. I appreciate the time.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We've been talking to Miss Danielle L. Campbell. She's a licensed firearm instructor and a businesswoman here in the South Florida area, based out of Miami. She lives in the Miami area, but she does training up here in Broward County as well. So we'd like to thank Danielle for joining us and giving us a ton of information and answering all of our questions. So Danielle L. Campbell, thank you so much for joining us, and you're always welcome back here on this podcast.
Thank you, guys. Good night, everyone.
Our chat loves you.
Yeah, they love you. They said thank you for answering all of our questions.
Yeah.
Great job at responding to the questions too.
Yep.
Anytime.
Thank you. Everybody stay tuned where you are. We're going to come back here in a few minutes with the pop-up podcast about what's going on in Deerfield Beach.
And if you need to give us anything, you can just give it to us off of air when we go off. If you anything else you needed to give us.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, Danielle. Have a good night.
You too.